What is going on, guys? It's another weekend, it's another video, so let's do this thing. Today I want to tell you guys a story about how I got into video making, YouTube, posting my stuff on both my channel here and on Pineapple Hog Studios. So let's go. I was about 2 years ago in Spanish class. We as a class had been assigned to make a movie because we were in a unit talking the Spanish language in relation to media, like radio, TV, movies, stuff like that. So our teacher assigned each of us to make a movie and submit it pretty much by the end of the month. And my friend Ryan and I decided we were going to make an action movie because that's the kind of guys we were. So we got down to writing a script. It was going to take place in this sort of super secret spy compound. There was going to be fights, there was going to be car chases, there was going to be cool one-liners. It was going to have everything that you'd expect an action movie to have. So we call our friend Dan and was like, hey, we're making this movie for Spanish class. You want to help us out? And he's like, yeah, man, let's do it. So about a week after we got the assignment, we all met at Ryan's house to do some pre-production stuff. But like anything that we do together, it went from pre-production to just goofing around. I mean, we had a bunch of airsoft guns that we were going to use as prompts. We were talking about our shooting schedule, where we were going to film, all that sort of stuff. And we got on track for about 5 minutes before it all went downhill. I mean, some of the footage still exists of us, in our pre-production meeting, because I wanted to shoot a whole lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, because my mind in this was going towards, one day this is going to end up on YouTube, even though it never did. But that was my mindset, and I was going to put it up on YouTube. It was going to be awesome. It was going to tell the story of how we got to where we were. We shot about a few minutes of behind-the-scenes stuff. Most of it was just us messing around with the airsoft guns. I was narrating the whole thing for, the future. And they were just sort of sitting there commenting occasionally about what was going on. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been me, it might have been Ryan, that we were going to do a post-credit scene in the movie, and it was going to be like the end credit scene in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. We were in the office part of Ryan's house, and I was sitting at one desk, he was sitting at another, Dan was standing over his shoulder printing off the script, and I was just sitting there, just listening to music with these headphones on, and I just sort of broke out into a little dance. Ryan turned around, I stopped, went back to typing at the computer that I was on, turned back around, I got back to the dance. And we actually ended up using that scene in the end product, but that's getting ahead of myself. Our first scene was here at my house. Actually, it was right over there. Right over in that spot. So our first day of filming, we went out to that spot, and what was going to happen was Ryan was supposed to throw a circuit board of some kind over his shoulder. It was supposed to explode, and then he was supposed to get a phone call. It didn't go down exactly as we planned. What we had planned to do was make the explosion happen using special effects. But here's the problem. We were recording on a really old VCR, VHS recording system, and we had no idea how to do special effects like the explosion, so we thought, you know what, the next best thing we can do is to make it practical. So we clumped together a bunch of dead grass that was out in the lawn because it was February and the snow had sort of melted enough that we were able to do that, and my brother Nathan grabbed a blowtorch and we were going to set the grass on fire behind Ryan to make it look like the explosion had happened, and then just find some way of editing Nathan out. It did not go as planned. During the shot that we tried, Ryan threw the circuit board over his shoulder, missed the mark where it was supposed to land. Nathan ran out with the blowtorch, set the grass behind Ryan on fire, then ran back, and everything was misaligned, and I wasn't particularly happy about it, but you know what? We were just starting, so mistakes can be made. The next shot we moved to was an external building shot. We were supposed to be entering the building, all Super Spy style, we were going in all stealthy, but for some reason, Ryan and I had decided that we were going to be wearing the most ridiculous hats possible for our secret agent outfits. I mean, there we were walking up to our site, which was the outside of this apartment building. We had on our suits, we had our spy sunglasses on, we were looking pretty cool, and then Ryan and I pulled out our ridiculous hats. he got out like this purplish stocking cap with a little tuft of fur on top, and I pulled out a fez. Now, if you don't know what a fez is, it's this tall, sort of bucket-like red hat, usually made out of felt or something. But yeah, those were our hats. But then we moved to a different location to shoot the inside of the building. We kept our ridiculous hats, and we were going to film like 5 different scenes consecutively in a row. Bam, bam, bam. That was our plan for the day. We were going to shoot the next 5 scenes, like maybe a half week later, we were going to go shoot the rest of our scenes in the basement of my church, because there was a little hallway area there that we could use, and we thought, you know what, let's just do this. So we got there, we got down to the hallway, we were going to shoot our stuff, and then we realized, you know what, we have a script and everything for this awesome action movie that we're calling The Rise of Sword, and we're going to translate everything into Spanish later, but we have our English scripts now, and we don't even know what's on the English script. So what we did, because we're clever like that, is we took the script and we taped the script sections to either wall of the hallway. And I recognize this, like watching the footage back later, is that in the scene, Ryan and I are basically just staring at the walls on either side of the hallway pretty much the entire time. And we only look back at each other like character interaction, like maybe 3 or 4 times. We're just staring at the walls, looking at the scripts, and our acting was so horrible, oh my gosh. But anyway, we went from shooting in those hallways to across the church basement to this different area. It was like right by the kitchen. We have my friend Keith, who you'll remember from the first video I did on this channel, which was Crashing Matt's Date. We got him to play a sniper thug who's just going to be sitting up in this sort of balcony area, which was really the countertop in the kitchen, be sniping us. But Keith was not just our sniper grunt for this scene, he was also our cameraman. Now keep in mind, cameramen are supposed to keep all the footage that they shoot, because it's important for scenes and stuff, because we don't want to lose any of our footage and have to go back and refilm later, right? You following me with this? After we shot his sniper grunt scenes in the kitchen, we went back home, because he had been our camera operator this whole time. We watched the footage back, and Keith had recorded just random behind-the-scenes stuff, not even the actual meat of the scene, over our actual dialogue interaction shots. We did not know where to go from there, because we couldn't just go back and reshoot everything, because the conditions had changed there and they'd like redecorated and stuff. We couldn't go back to the same hallway spot and just reshoot the whole thing without making it obvious that yes, we had done reshoots. We wanted this to look as seamless as possible, and that wasn't going to happen. So from there on, we just focused on shooting different scenes, like focusing on this hostage scene. Now the hostage scene was Ryan tied up in a chair. Dan was doubling in for our villain, because our original villain actor, Drew, had not been able to make it because of bad weather conditions. Because it's February in the Midwest, you get snowstorms out of the blue. So Dan was filling in as our villain, and because he had already shot scenes as a good guy, we covered up his face with a gas mask. His idea, not ours. Oh boy, the gas mask scenes were actually the hardest to film, because Dan's speaking parts were so hard to understand that they caused for the best bloopers in the history of the universe. When you put on a gas mask, your voice is muffled by all the air filtration stuff. Dan had also decided to adopt a Russian accent, and he was supposed to be threatening Ryan during the whole scene. But Dan's a funny guy. He has a sense of humor. He likes to make jokes. The whole 15 to 20 minutes that we were trying to shoot this scene, Dan opened up the scene using 2 completely unscripted lines. He comes in, trying to be all menacing. He's across the table from Ryan. I'm dressed up as a thug on the opposite side of Dan. Dan's here, Ryan's here, the table's here. Dan comes up, leans up against the table, and he's like, "So, how are you doing today?" And we had to reshoot it because we just broke out laughing, because he was using this accent and a gas mask, and he just sounds like the most unbelievable chotch on the planet. We do it again. This time he comes up with, "What have you been up to lately?" And Ryan bursts out laughing because apparently it's the most hilarious thing in the world, because you have this dude in a gas mask and a button-up shirt staring across the table from you, asking you unusual questions. How are you not supposed to burst out laughing while you're tied up in a chair? Then came the stupid lemon. The stupid lemon was perhaps one of the best outtakes that we had while filming The Rise of Sword. While it was still The Rise of Sword. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The stupid lemon was a part in the scene where I tell Dan that he's not doing a good job as a villain. And he turns around and tells me, "Shut up, you're the one who forgot his gun," referencing Ryan's gun that he still had in his coat pocket. And he turns back to Ryan and says, "Oh, you stupid moron." Of course he's talking to me. But because I'm partly deaf sometimes, and because Dan is wearing this ridiculous getup, it sounded like he said, "You stupid lemon." We've been on this continuous streak of jokes, outtakes, and one-liners that I am a viable Mount Vesuvius of laughter. And the stupid lemon, knowing that it sounds like, and it's supposed to be "you stupid moron," but it sounds completely unscripted, I fell to the ground in a fit of laughter, ruining the whole take, and we just decided we were going to cut the whole scene entirely. So after we shot all those scenes that ended up getting cut, we headed back to the church to film the second part of the building search. We ended up heading back to the same part of the church we had been shooting at before, because why not? I mean, they took down the decorations and changes that they had before, so we just went back to that same part of the hallway, just moved the shot down a bit further, and continued from there. But a funny thing happened. My friend Becca, she came with us that night, and she was going to fill the part of our third or fourth good guy. And the part that she was in, she was supposed to jump out of the ceiling tiles, give us a little surprise, right? So we got this ladder, and we put it behind this movable wall curtain. And we told her, climb to the top of the ladder, then jump off, like the same side of the ladder that's going to be facing out, and scare us on our cue. Because Ryan finished a line, and then she was supposed to jump out. So we're walking down the hallway, Ryan and I are exchanging our lines. I'm in a completely different suit for whatever reason, and then Ryan ends his line. I was expecting Becca to have like a 1 second, 2 second pause between actually jumping from the ladder down behind us to surprise us. She goes right ahead. And I'm supposed to act scared when she jumps out, right? That take was not acting. I was actually pretty scared when this large human-like thing fell from the ceiling and I thought it was an actual ceiling tile. No joke. But after that, we wrapped filming at the church. We did a few more things with fighting bad guys, some action scenes, stuff like that. None of which ended up making it to the final cut, but it was good filmography. 2 days later, I'm at Ryan's house again. We're going to start editing some of this stuff, going over some of what we shot. We're going to shoot our car chase scene now. And a massive ice storm hit us the morning that we were supposed to shoot the car chase scene. Not fun if you're trying to shoot an action film and present it to your Spanish class in a matter of days, pretty much. What we did, Ryan and I are sitting in the basement of his house, which is a pretty nice basement as far as basements go, and we're thinking, what can we do with all the footage that we've shot? Like the car chase scene is the one that finishes this all off. If we don't have that, then we've got pretty much nothing as a film. We're sitting there, I'm spinning around in this revolving chair thinking, what can we possibly do? And then the idea hits me out of nowhere. And I tell Ryan, what if we take all the footage that we have up until now and we use it in like a mockumentary showing how not to make a movie? And he's like, yeah, that could work. So we end up spending the rest of the afternoon working up like a narration script and how we're going to fit various bits of the footage into this mockumentary titled An Idiot's Guide to Filming, because at this point we recognized our attempt to make an action film using what we had. We were probably the biggest idiots in the Midwest at the time. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be a Spanish project. We've been doing the whole thing in English. So what was our natural conclusion that we had to come to? Let's translate the entire narration script into Spanish using Google Translate, and then put that as our script, and just record the audio and use that. So we get some recording equipment at our disposal, and we record the audio. Since Ryan and I are pretty fluent Spanish speakers at this point, we've got the script down to a T. Dan does not speak Spanish at all. Dan has learned German during high school. His Spanish sounds like the most unusual dialect that you will ever hear on this planet. It didn't even sound like it was from Earth at times. But we figured, you know what, it doesn't matter if Dan's Spanish is bad. Our teacher has such a good ear for Spanish that she will just be able to know what everything is, right? But we're like, you know what, this is our film. We're going to present it. We're going to own it. It's going to be awesome. Go into class the next day. We're like, everyone's presenting their films. Becca and the girls of the class had done a horror film, like, taking place in this haunted house. The other guys of the class had done, like, this vaguely plotted, some guy who got in gambling problems and was on the run from these gangsters. I don't know. But the time came for us to present our film. We'd gone into another classroom which had a better TV setup. We put our DVD in the DVD player. We let it go. The most unfortunate screening of my life so far. After they heard our horrible Spanish pronunciation, they just stopped paying attention to the movie altogether and were just talking amongst themselves. And I'm watching the whole thing unfold like, oh dear, this is not going well. But fortunately, our teacher, Mrs. Cooper, was able to understand pretty much the gist of what we were getting at, and we got by with, like, I think, a B+. So all in all, it was not bad for a first go at filming. Ever since then, I've been focused on constantly trying to improve the quality of what I put out, whether it's videos like this, storytime stuff, or like actual sketches for Pineapple Hog Studios. Which, actually, fun fact that I didn't mention this before, An Idiot's Guide to Filming was actually the first video that we made with the Pineapple Hog Studios brand, and we had every intention of putting an English version of it up on YouTube, and I don't know why we didn't do that. But it's probably going to happen someday when none of us are busy. Might be this year. Who knows? Alright guys, that's the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little story about my first experience with filming and YouTube stuff. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you like what you saw. Videos every weekend. I will see you guys next Saturday or Sunday, depending on what day it is, because my uploading time and my Wi-Fi suck. Yeah. See ya.